should you risk 1% per trade? Hi, it's Charlie Burton at EzeeTrader here. Hope you're very well. Back from holidays last week, just went down to Cornwall, and I would highly recommend coast steering, jumping off cliffs into the sea with instructors, so fully supervised. A brilliant thing to do, very exhilarating. I'm sure many of you have done it. Right, that was the highlight of my week away, but it was good. So, should you risk 1% per trade? Typically, lots of traders will keep their risk up to 1%. I know plenty of people do trade more than that, but let's just go with this for now. So a static risk percentage is what I'm talking about. And it makes sense, doesn't it, to risk, for example, whether it's 1%, half percent, whatever it is, it doesn't really matter. But let's just go with 1%. So you're risking 1% per trade, so if your account goes from, let's say, 10,000 to 10,100, then you're risking 1% of the new higher amount. If your account goes from 10,000 to 9,000, then you're only risking 1% of the lower amount. So it naturally works with your account if it goes up or if you have a drawdown. Either way, it's a really good rule of thumb to use. Okay. For a manual individual trader, 1% is a good overall measure to use. Now, whenever I've done back testing in the past, you do a back test, you get let's say 300 pieces of trade data or back test results or back tests on a market or across a number of markets. And that gives you a load of information based on risk to reward, win rate, and all the other bits of information that you would normally accrue when you're manually doing a back test. And so you'll say, right, okay, yes, this is my win rate. So my win rate is, let's say, 50%, and the average risk to reward comes out at 1 to 2, let's say. I'll make it nice and easy here. So, and you'd say, right, okay, so yeah, I'm going to trade with a 1% at risk, and I'm just going to go off and trade that. Okay, nothing wrong with that at all. However, there is another way of looking at risk outside of using a static risk, and what I'm going to now demonstrate is using the AI system that we have to demonstrate this. So what I'm going to show you here is I've got three back tests plugged into the AI system. Now, any of our customers can have up to 10 back tests if they want to, but I'm just going to use 3 here for the purposes of this exercise. So you can see they've got a couple of different pieces of information here. It's not giving anything too much away to you, but medium stop, 1.5 risk reward, fixed risk. So this one's based on a fixed risk of 1% per trade across 5 time frames. This one's still a medium stop, but a 2.5 risk reward, dynamic risk, and then the last one has a dynamic risk as well. Okay, so with a wider stop. Okay, so there's 3 different permutations here, and I've put these together because they carry different levels of risk based on some of the other dynamic settings that I've put into these back tests. So let's actually just go through this to give you an idea of what I'm talking about here. So now, in order to make this a little bit more in line, actually, I'm going to change the risk reward on this to 2 to 1, because both of these are 2 to 1 as well. Okay, this one's got 5 time frames, but one of the time frames doesn't actually kick any trades out anyway, so it's actually only 4 anyway. So what I'm going to do is do a test. Okay, so do a test here. Okay, so this comes out, there we go. Didn't take too long because I've already run it once. So this comes out at 123% annualized return. Now what I didn't do is change that. What was I supposed to be changing? The take profit. So I'm just going to click on the take profit here, and I'm going to change that to a 2 to 1 risk to reward. So there we go. Just clicking on it. It's gone a bit slow because I'm doing the recording. There we go. So I'm just going to change that to a 2 to 1 risk reward. Then just go back and run the test again. And then there we go. It's come through quite quick. And for any of you who think, oh, how come the chart's really small back here? It actually, if I've not got the recording going, it will show you the actual amounts as it's actually growing. It's just because of the scaling. So it's only going to really, because it can't fit it all in, because back in here in September, that 2011, it was already growing at that point, but you can always click on something like yearly to then see, right, okay, I can now see a bit more data there if I zoom in a little bit. But anyway, back to all. So the purposes of this exercise is to okay, so I'm bringing this into line. So I've now got a 2-to-1 risk to reward across each of these tests. There's slightly different variables within the test, but I don't need to go into all of that. So this exercise is producing a 253% annualized return over the last 10 years. Now, before any of you clever clogs say, oh yes, but Charlie, if you made 253% every year, then over 10 years and you started off with a £10,000 account, it would be, run into billions or whatever it would be at. Yeah, of course. But the reality is, once you get into 7 figures, you would change all your risk settings. You would be taking money out. You wouldn't be putting as much risk on and all of that. So that's the reality once you get to a certain level. And that's what happened to me in my personal trading. Once I got to 2013, I stopped actually increasing my position sizes on my trades. I just stuck at those same sort of position sizes. Didn't have the same incentive to want to keep on growing the account. I still grow the account, but not at that same acceleration. I'd already done all of that and I didn't need to do that. And you quite a lot of the time, you will find your own limit in that regard. Okay, so 253%, but the counter argument to this is the drawdown. So you can see that in order to get that 253%, it took a 33, nearly a 34%. Its largest drawdown was 34%. Now, many of you might say, well, that's all right, I'm okay with that. Yeah, you wait until you've got, $500,000 under management, so to speak. You've got $500,000 in your trading account. Will you be happy to see that come down by 34%? Okay, so the reality is, most people want the returns, but they have a level of risk that they're prepared to take. Okay, so that's that one. Now, that's using a fixed risk. If I now come back to the strategy factory, you can't see it off screen. So I'm just going to go back to the factory strategy here off screen. And I'm now going to go to, that was that first one, and I changed that risk reward to a 2-to-1. I'm now going to go to Charlie 2, which is a medium stop still, dynamic risk setting. So let's go and test this one. Oh, click over here. Right, so I'm just going to run that test here. There it goes, coming through. Nearly there. There we go. Now this one is a dramatically different return, as you can see. So slightly fewer trades, but not many. But look at the drawdown now. So you've got, yes, we've got reduced return, but you've now got a reduced drawdown, dramatically reduced drawdown. So what is it that's actually going on here? What's actually the main component that's changed? There's a couple of little tweaks in there as well, so you can play around with it to your heart's content and get the annualized return roughly where you want. You might say, I'd rather have it closer to 90%. Well, yeah, you can play around with it and get the overall risk reward profiles and everything there to produce over that type of return in the test. And then once you've done all the testing, then you can then just accept the trades as they come through. That's just the system does all the hard work and you just accept the trades. So dynamic risk, what that actually does is it takes expectancy. It looks at expectancy of a trade. And this is coming back to my original point here. When you do a manual back test across 300 trades, you can't possibly know the expectancy of each individual trade on each individual time frame that you're trading off of across each individual market that you might be trading. Well, this system obviously does all that because it can do all that. The computer doesn't need to sleep, does it? So it can work all of this out in a space of seconds, really, and give you an expectancy. So what this is doing is it's saying, right, okay, this is the expectancy is the risk, the reward, and the win rate combined together. So it can then say, right, okay, well, there's a Euro-Swiss trade here I'm presenting to you, but this one only has an expectancy of, let's say, 0.2. So it will then give you a trade, but with you taking a lower risk on that trade, as opposed to when the expectancy, let's say, is 0.49. So then you'll be then taking higher risk, all within up to 1%, let's say, depending on how you want to set it. So basically, you're doing what a professional money manager would do, which is you will have heard many famous money managers talk about putting their foot down when they're having a good run, and then they'll ease off when they're going through maybe a drawdown. And that's essentially what this system will do, is it will look at the trades and it will say, look, based on all of the data I have, this specific trade right now, and I just made up one there saying Euro Swiss, we're going to actually take this with a less risk, because based on all of my data here, it's still worth trading, but it's not worth trading with full risk on. And then another trade that presents itself, it will do that. And by doing that, yes, you get a lower annualized return, but you get much lower volatility as well. And you can find somewhere in a happy medium as what you want for your risk. So it's just a question for you today, and I'm showing you the system again here because the system has so many features to it. I can do lots of training videos on it. That you do you have that level of information for your own personal trading? Probably not. In which case, yes, stick to a fixed, percentage risk, whatever that is, whether it's 1%, 0.5%, 2% even. Do that. But this is what's really clever when you're utilizing the power of artificial intelligence here, to say, well, actually, the system will tell you the type of risk to put on. And then you can then put your foot down on the trades which the data backs up to say, yes, put your foot down on these trades, and you can then ease up and put a smaller position on those trades where the data says, yes, trade it, but trade it with a smaller amount of risk. If you're interested in this system, then what I've got plugged into it is my DST strategy. Sam's been promoting this over the last week or so. I'll put a link into the description box below, and then you can have a proper read all about it, and I think I've even got a video on that page as well. Have a read all about it, because this is a real game changer, and if you're looking for something which is going to massively assist your trading, then look no further, because this really is a bit of a game changer here. Anyway, I shall leave that with you, and I'll be back on Friday. Now I'm back for live trading. Kim's done it for a couple of weeks, and so I'll see you on Friday.